I've seen, particularly over the past 7 or 8 years, and even with the rise of certain people, maybe I could include myself in this, is that there is an increasing appetite, hunger, thirst for authenticity and truth-telling, and people just saying it like it is and not being constantly afraid of being canceled for this or for that. And people are looking for individuals and for voices who can lead the way in that regard and who can help to encourage and embolden other people, oftentimes just through example, to be like, oh, okay, we can talk about this issue, or okay, cool, someone recognizes. Because something people often say to me is that I say what they're thinking. So maybe they don't have the courage, or they don't have the ability to articulate, or they haven't quite connected the dots, or they just don't have the platform.
I think a very real piece is they'll get fired. Or there's the fear that you're going to get fired.
There's the fear they'll get fired. It's normally
the weaponization
more in their brain.
of the HR department
is
essentially, we were talking about 1984 before. It's kind of a very Orwellian thing that exists.
And I know that has happened to people. I do know people who have, been quote unquote canceled. Number one, what's interesting is usually long term they end up massively thriving as a result of it. They go through, a crappy period.
It's the resilience. It hones you to become more.
And then they come out and they break through and now they're more free, and now they're at liberty to speak and so on, and they're a bit more anti-fragile and cancel-proof. Yeah. And the other thing is that, like most things, people tend to we tend to think of worst case situations that are extraordinarily unlikely.
Yes.
Any young man who has ever what's something that's really scary to a young man? Approaching a woman they're attracted to. Okay, because in their brain, like, logically speaking, it's pretty stupid to be afraid of approaching a woman.
Yeah.
It's pretty dumb. Like, it's not like a really logical, like, bro, you're like, you got 50 pounds on here. You're like 5 inches taller.
Yeah.
There's no, like, what and in the brain, it's like, oh my, the heart rate is like, maybe they imagine, oh, she's gonna like slap him and like throw something on him, or maybe some like her buff boyfriend's gonna come out and like beat you up, right? Like there's something in your brain, like probability wise, if you made like a reasonable, I'm not saying you go and grab her or something, but like probability wise, the worst thing that's gonna happen is like, probably you get ignored, or she says she has a boyfriend, or she politely declines, right? But it's like the thing in the brain, and I find that happens with people who's speaking out as well. They're saying, oh, if I say this thing, like I'll get fired and I'll lose a bunch. I'm like, dude, the probability of of all of this stuff happening it's so extraordinarily low. And the point I also make, and look, I mean, I've been self-employed for a long time, so I can understand people's fears, but I've had conversations with people where, they feel so locked in and stifled and afraid of being canceled and so on, where I've had conversations with guys where I'm just kind of like, dude, I've had conversations where I'm like, if you are working at a place or for an employer that would fire you for saying like what you're telling me you want to say,
like only men can get pregnant, like, or cannot get pregnant.
Yeah, I'm like, is this who you'd want to work for a long time? Like, do you want to dedicate decades of your life to an employer who would cancel you and fire you for saying a basic truth? I'm not saying like putting out some radical viewpoint.
It comes back to most men don't have standards even for themselves. Yeah. And so it's like courage, there's like tiers of courage, right? Like we think the word courage only means like, oh, a soldier in combat, being brave under fire or whatever. It's like, dude, that's like 1% of, not even, it's probably less than that.
Yeah.
That's like, because even in the military, right? Like I deployed to combat, like I didn't do anything that crazy.
Sure.
Like there was no like courage under fire moment or whatever, right? Like even within people who go to war, there's a very small group of people who actually do like really courageous things under fire. Okay, so like, but most guys, it's romanticized, so we like think that's the only litmus for courage. I think it's more courageous today, to your point, to be like, no, this company does not align with my values. I'm out.
Yes.
I'm going to go find a different job. That takes a lot of courage, because in the world we've grown up in, there's a lot of risk for that kind of thing. But this is where I really, really hone in on being a man of standards, personal values. Not everyone I work with is Christian, and that's by design, because, this is a man problem. And obviously my faith inspires that, but it's not exclusive to like just Christian men. We need all men to just act like men again in our culture. you know, and whatever your faith system is, you know, I'm not going to try and like preach to you about that, but your inability to just hold a simple line for yourself, that spirals back into the mental health stuff. And like, oh, you don't respect yourself now. So you just spiral down and you just keep going down, 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 down. And then you're that guy showing up to your wife all depressed and sad. And so do you think she's attracted to you? Do you think she's excited to be your wife? No, because you're not Prince Charming anymore. You're depressed and sad and hate your job and all this kind of stuff. Like, you have to take ownership of it. You have to shake things up, and there's risk with that. But that's, I try to give those tools to men to like, literally my goal is like, you're going to do my program and leave. And like, I hope that you get so successful that you're like, see you later, George, never need you again. Yeah. Great, mission accomplished. Like, go forth and multiply, you know, like execute. And that, I think there's a very loud minority that has convinced men that there is more risk than there actually is. Because like, I'll have people message me, as unknown as I am, being like, how are you so courageous to like say these things? And I'm like, what are they going to do to me? Yeah. What are they actually going to do to me? Get mad at me on Twitter or X? You know, like, that's fine. Go ahead. You can say whatever you want to me. Yeah. If me saying the thing saves one dude, then I don't care. I'll take every insult under the sun to like help that guy, you know? And more guys need to do that, and you don't have to do it in some big overt way like you and I are trying to do, right? Like, you can do it behind the scenes, but you just stop following along. You know, for most men to start leading, you just have to stop following first. That's really the first piece. I empathize a lot with guys in that position, though.
I do. You know, I think I think faith does play a very significant role in here as well, or at least it should. Firstly, I think that a lot of Christians, particularly, forget that cowardice is a sin.
Yeah, I have. We could do a whole second episode on like Christian men, because if you look at examples of men in the Bible, they weren't gentle people.
Bro, look at what's our religion called again? Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you made a pretty big
you want to look at the 4 pillars.
Yeah,
there's a great example.
Yeah,
Jesus wasn't always just nice, and even when he was being polite, he still said, "Go and sin no more."
Yeah,
but to the willfully evil people, he rebuked them aggressively.
Yes,
right, to the Pharisees and stuff. So he wasn't just this like meek, gentle person.
No.
And modern American Christianity has loved to paint him like this little lamb. No, he's the Lion of Judah.
Yes.
And when he returns, he's coming with a sword.
Yep.
So, you know, Christian men is a big problem in my book. And I was part of the problem because it's the way we were raised, but you got to wake up.
Yes.
Like, so I'm hoping someone will listen to this and be like, oh, okay, maybe I should ask some questions here.
There's that, but I think we have the advantage in that, you know, you're not doing it by yourself.
You're not
doing it by yourself.
Absolutely not.
So I genuinely believe that the reason why a lot of things pan out the way they do for people, or they just don't work and permanently struggle with certain things, is because they are, regardless of their belief, like they're trying to do it completely by themselves. And as a Christian, I don't believe you can do everything by yourself. Like
you're designed to do it with others.
Yes, we are sinful by nature. We make mistakes. We do stupid things. We make bad decisions. The most devout person out there, you could be in a monastery, and you still sin. You still make mistakes. You still feel temptation. You still have all of these things, right? Because you're a human being. And so I think when there's the approach of just like, I'm trying this thing and I'm failing, and I'm trying and I'm failing, it's typically because people. There are many ways of dealing with things, and we can do a lot by ourselves. But ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, long term, we're pretty pathetic on our own if we're just left to our human ways and trying to do everything our human way. Then there's always just going to be that cap. There's going to be that limitation, and there's going to be a cap. There's going to be a limitation on courage as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Because why wouldn't there be? I mean, we're honed for survival.
Yeah.
I'm not confused as to why people don't speak out more, or to why certain things get to a certain way. It's like, I'm not confused by cowardice, because that is the default position. As an animal, most animals are wired for survival.
Yeah.
Right? Is a gazelle a coward if it hints, ooh, there's a lion there, I'm going to run? It's like, no, that's just survival. It's not really.
Correct.
It's not cowardice per se. courage is the abnormal thing, because it doesn't mean you don't have fear. It means you acknowledge, okay, I am afraid of this thing. There is some fear. There is a potential downside or consequence, but it's the right thing to do, so I'm going to do it anyway. And there's levels to that. Are there certain risks that I wouldn't want to take? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would like to think that if
there's still wisdom.
Yes, there's exactly.
It's wisdom with courage. It's
Yes.
like you pick your battles, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's a great distinction there.